Welcome back. Silk reeling on the X and Y axis, or tracing a yin-yang symbol on the wall in front of us. This is really the culmination of all the previous work we've done. All the principles for all of them are going to apply to this. So if you're having trouble with this, please go back and spend some time with the other videos and some of the other recommendations I made in there, just to make sure that this goes as smoothly as possible and you avoid a bunch of the beginner pitfalls. This exercise is typically the first one that I see taught by teachers, and in my own teaching practice, I have found that when I teach this one first, I'm going back and correcting stuff that we covered by starting on the other planes. And starting them on the other planes means you get to work on more simple processes, and this one is really just putting it all together. To start off with, I'm going to have my palm up in front of my belly. As I breathe in, I'm going to come up to the top of the circle. That's my half circle. According to the formula now, I have to squiggle. So I squiggle down through the center till I get to a palm up. Now the formula says do a full circle. So I come up to the top and I go back down around to the side. Same formula as always, half circle, squiggle, full circle. Half circle, squiggle, full circle. Sorry if you can hear the dishwasher up there, but these are the challenges of recording in a basement. We're looking for the shoulder mobility that we gained out of working on the Y and the Z axis. When we come down into our squiggle here, we're in that same sort of shoulder locked out position that we were doing when we were on this axis, right? So we need that same sort of shoulder mobility to get to there. I am, for the most part of this, still trying to keep my hand doing something very simple, which is going up and down and up and down. Just like when we were on the X and Z axis, drawing these circles here. I'm trying to keep it very much centered and in line there. I'm working mostly with my hips and then adding in the waist as needed. So again, we need to kind of go back to the previous stuff if you haven't figured that out in your body yet, how to operate your waist and your hips individually and then in tandem in order to get this thing all smoothed out and working properly. If you can't get yourself into these weird torquey positions right away, don't worry about it. Most people can't, unless they've been doing Tai Chi a while or similar sorts of arts. Again, just work up to the edge of uncomfortable and set these things as sort of goals to get to. And if you got to go back and work on the other simpler movement planes, spend your time there. You'll get so much more out of this exercise by making sure you go back and do the basics. As I start out with my palm up, I'm applying all the same principles. So I want to move my palm from the up position here to the down position there. I need to breathe in on my way up and breathe out on my way down. I need to create a circle that goes off in that direction, but I'm not just going to move my arm there, I want to try and keep it on my center line. In order to move my center line, I got to move my hips. So, breathing in, I move my hips. Now my palm is still on my center line. It's right in front of me. I'm facing off to the corner, but my palm is right on my center line. If I undo those hips and I come back to the center as my palm moves to the top, I have accomplished basically just moving my palm from here to here with a hip twist. And that gets me my first half circle. Half circle, half circle. When we apply the formula, we do a half circle and a squiggle. So, half circle, and then the squiggle. What I need to do now is I need to combine my hip and my waist twist at the same time while rotating my palm down through the center of the yin-yang. If I allow both of those twists to happen synchronized, then I wind up in this position here with my palm up, exactly the same as when I was doing the YZ axis. From here, I can undo my waist and hips to get me half a circle back up to the top. I can keep going with the hips and then the hips to complete the circle. So it's half a circle is all hip motion. Squiggle is hip and waist twist. Hip and waist twist. Get back to the top. Hip, hip. Hip, hip, hip and waist, hip and waist, hip, hip. So that is one version of the circle, the positive circle, the yang circle, the clockwise circle, whatever. Now we need to draw the opposite side. And the opposite side, just like when we were doing it on our YZ axis, means we start out with our palm twisted over. So to start twisted over, I have to start in a fully twisted position with my hips and my waist. So that all rotates together. Then I just do the same formula. I do half a circle by uncoiling my hips and waist till I get to the top. I do the squiggle, rotating. This I can just basically do with the hips. Just a little hip shimmy. Bigger hip motion out to the side. Uncoil the hip motion to get back to the top. Now to get all the way around and finish the circle, this is a big hip and waist twist. Hip and waist. Hips. 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 Hip and waist. Twist. Squiggle. Slightly larger squiggle. And twist. So those are our positive and negative, or yin and yang versions of that cycle. We should, of course, do those with our other hand as well. Half circle, squiggle, full circle. half circle, squiggle, full circle. That's one version of it. Next one, we got to start. Rotated, twisted, half circle, squiggle, full circle. Half circle, squiggle, full circle. Then we can put the two of those together just by going half circle, squiggle, half circle, squiggle. Looking a little bit like this. Half circle, squiggle. Half circle, squiggle. Half circle, squiggle. Half circle, squiggle. Into one continuous motion. Like so. The last variant that I'd like to point out for this one, for you to start trying out, and honestly, start taking this back through some of the other versions as well. So far, what we've been doing is we've just been kind of drawing a nice big circle around. So we're looking a lot for mobility and trying to find all the dust bunnies and creaks and cracks and whatnot in our joints and working those out and making spirals with them and cleaning them all out. One of the other ways that we can really vary this practice is by altering the size of the circle. If I were to do this, drawing the biggest circle I possibly can, so I start with my hand as low as I possibly can, and I come out as far as I possibly can, and I draw it up as high as I can, and I draw the biggest squiggle I possibly can, I'm getting the most sort of joint mobility out of this that I possibly can get. Right? And that is an awesome practice if we're looking for overall mobility and just looseness and flexibility of movement. We can also go the other direction as well and make the circles as small as possible. Where I would start out with my palm up more at chest height, and I rotate to go up to the top, squiggle down through the bottom, rotate to do the full circle, and back to palm up. Palm down, palm up. So making a very small half circle, squiggle, full circle. Half circle, squiggle, full circle. Half circle, squiggle, full circle. Do it both versions, so start out twisted, half circle, squiggle, full circle. Half circle, squiggle, full circle. And when you're doing it like that, it's very difficult to see something quite interesting that's happening that isn't exactly apparent when we're doing larger circles. And to demonstrate this, I've actually got to do it facing you 90 degrees away. If I start out here and my palm is up, I hope you can see this against the background. As I do a small circle, to get to the top, I have to extend my arm. And in order to do the squiggle, I have to really extend my arm out. Then to do the full circle, I'm drawing my arm back in. So we should be able to see if I grab a point, say right there by, I don't know, is that his foot? Yeah, dragon's foot. Okay. So fingertips are roughly equal to the foot. As I reach out and squiggle and then pull back in. We can see my arm is doing quite an outward and inward motion. I'm really drilling out and really undoing that, coiling out and coiling in. This is one of the energies we really look for in silk reeling, is this outward spiraling and inward spiraling energy. So if you want to get a good grasp on it, start shrinking your circles down, make them smaller and smaller and smaller, and explore that feeling. Once you get that feeling, start making the circles larger and larger and large again, and make sure that feeling is continuing throughout. So even when you're doing the giant circles as big as you possibly can, you really feel that you are drilling out and sucking that back in, all right? Drilling out. It's all very much part of the silk reeling energy and should be there even if I'm working on the sides. I want to do this one nice and small, right? Extending out, pulling back in. And really feel those circles. Extending out, pulling in. Drilling out, drilling back in. Have a play with those circles. Try them in all the different planes now. We've got, we started out working basically beside us, in front of us, on a table, and now in front of us on a wall. Have a play with them, try them out, all sorts of various combinations, challenge yourself. I always like to think of this kind of like kids games, and okay, what if I did it like this? What if I challenged myself like this? What if I restricted it in some way? And just start thinking of little games that you can play for with yourself and trying to move these circles and spirals around in space. Do have fun with it. Any questions or comments, fire them down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thanks for joining me. Take care.